Hello everyone, my name is Dylan Moskis. Today I'll be presenting my paper or PowerPoint presentation. My paper is a design paper, as you can see here, where it's highlighted in blue. It says a design of an activity, device, curricular approach, or learning environment may be presented that addresses a question or claim about embodied cognition. The design may be intended to facilitate learning or instruction or enhance performance, communication, or reasoning. It may also be a form of instrumentation that helps to collect or analyze data that will serve a broad set of research questions. The design should be clearly described and, if possible, shown. The value of the design must be specifically motivated by societal or scientific needs. Compared to an empirical paper, the theoretical and empirical justification for the particular design must be even more strongly developed. Okay. My paper was sent to you, Doctor. It's right here. All this is my paper. It's roughly 15 pages long, 15 to 17 pages long, if I believe. Um, all this, I even put the star scores and so on, and conclusion and my methodologies. It was a mixed method. Okay. Um, so the presentation is as follows right here. So here we have my very quick and simple. It's just a breakdown of my paper. My paper obviously is longer than my presentation, but I'm gonna thoroughly break it down or decipher it, as you will, into smaller chunks. Okay. So my paper is basically teacher-centered over student-centered instruction in terms of embodied cognition, how students learn. I'm very biased how students learn, either direct instruction or actively participating, critical thinking, think pressure methods, and so on. The way I teach in my classroom is mostly direct teaching. It's always mostly memory, retention, drills, and repetition. A lot of repetition for students to grasp the information faster. Um, and that's my way of teaching. Obviously, very simple, abstract. It's like 120 to 140 words. All it is. It explores both teacher-centered and student-centered instruction. It also encompasses what we learn in class, which is memory and encoding in your head, and the way students grasp information, retain it, and then they output it. Or you ask a question, they respond to you. So very simple, teacher-centered, direct teaching, structured lessons, standardized testing, student-centered engagement, autonomy, collaboration. Obviously, the argument here is just memory and coding, through which preferred method. Which one do they learn more? Which one do they have more retention of? Is it the teacher-centered? Is it the student-centered? Is it both? Is it just one or two? According to my paper, the full-long paper, my students learn best with the teacher-centered, which is more memory, graphs, more encoding, and the more output, and so on. So which one is more attainable for me? It was teacher centered, 100%. Okay. Um, Historical roots. What I talked about in the paper, I went in with curriculum philosophers: Dewey, Vygotsky, Piaget, Thorndike, Skinner, many other curriculum philosophers. Both have their ways. The first three are student centered, and then the other are teacher centered. And then they talked about constructivist theories, emphasis collaboration, hands-on learning. Behavior theories, emphasis repetition, direct instruction, and efficiency right here. So obviously, behavior theories, right here, retention, repetition, memory, and coding all involve teacher-centered instruction or teacher-led. Okay. So what are the factors for teacher-centered instruction? Main advantage obviously is classroom management. You have more handling the classroom, and then we, the teachers, are the ones in authority. Okay, the students are just sponges taking in information, just like how John Dewey said, the banking model of education. They're taking in information. They're just sponges. That's all there is. Okay, so the focus in the classroom is very structured. Okay, it's procedures, routines. It's a structured classroom. Nothing will go off the rails. It will stay every day the same way. Okay, instructional methods, lectures, resuscitation, drills, demonstrations, memory, and coding. Those are the things that I said earlier right now. Okay. And then we have student-centered challenges, some things that I have observed and witnessed in classrooms, some issues. Lack of self-discipline, off-task behavior and disruptions, lower test performance. The students, when they're in groups, I tried it one time with my classes. One time, I think it was 2 years ago when I was teaching history. Right now, I teach science. They went so off task. They started talking about other things, fights in school. They went off the rails. So I was like, never again. Okay. So, and then it says teacher experience scores drop with students in our projects off task numerous times. So after I was done with grouping, I tested them to see what they learned throughout the week because obviously they did their research, their Chromebook research. They Googled, and the majority of students failed the test, and that was a problem for me. Okay, I am very competitive, so when it comes to memory and coding repetition, demonstrations, drills, recitation, and so on, that's my specialty in direct instruction. So student centered is a not it for me. Okay, impact of teacher centered, like I mentioned, I did a methodology. It was a mixed method. Um, it was a mixed method. It was both quantitative and qualitative. Obviously, quantitative meaning numbers, involving numbers, star scores, and then both qualitative interview surveys. 8 teachers in both schools were 4 and 4. Um, 4 use gestures, memory, and coding, while the others use active participation throughout the year. So I was one that was teacher led or direct instruction. Memory was one. Repetition is another one. Repetition is a key for me. I tend to repeat a lot of keywords, a lot of names, dates, and so on for more memory grasp. Okay. And obviously, encoding is the one that is being encoded through your head and doesn't leave your head. It's been encoded. Okay. And which is a plus when they start testing. The results, obviously, on the paper, the one I completed, the 16 page, 17 page, it has the graph in there. You'll see a graph at the end, a bar graph, but on the paper, it has Excel spreadsheet that compares me scores versus my coworker scores. And I produced the highest, well, the second, because my department head taught pre-P. So obviously, pre-P will always go higher than a regular student. So, but I scored the top two in between my coworkers. And you can see there the results. Teacher-centered methods produce higher star scores. Second bullet, students prefer direct instruction for clarity and retention. Teachers value flexibility but acknowledge lecturer's role. I did a survey at the end of the year. Okay, at the end of the year for my 8th grade students, which was last year, no, 2 years ago, and I surveyed them to see what they like better. And it turns out they prefer the direct instruction. That's how they learn better. Yes, they do prefer, some said, the student center with groups because they get to talk to their friends. But again, it's off topic. They don't relate it to the topics we're talking about. Okay. Um, the conclusion, what I found out by doing this paper is teacher center leads to higher scores, discipline, and retention. And then that's when I put retention, meaning that students store more memory and information, leading to better scores. Okay, 100%. 100%. Student center supports critical thinking, but struggles with structure. It also struggles with active participation and memorization, leading to a downfall in scores. As you can see in the bar graph right here, you can see 2023 U.S. history, star scores comparison, percentage pass, and then the rest. We have 4 in school. Ms. Perales was pre-P. She taught our pre-P. That's me right there with the second. And then the rest of the coworkers. Notice how I didn't have pre-P at all. I had all regular students. My coworker had 2 classes pre-P. And then my other coworker had 0. So me and my other coworker had 0 pre-P. But notice I'm the second one in the graph. Why? Because my direct instruction led to better scores. Okay, more memory retention, more encoding in their head, longer retaining information. They did their output in the start, and that served more scores to them. Okay, now let me go back over here to the conclusion. Recommendation. Recommendation. It can be balanced between both. A balanced approach may be address weaknesses of both, try and incorporate both memory and actively participating. You can have groups, but you can be the authority in the classroom still. Do not leave them alone because they will go off topic. You can still lecture, but they're in groups still. Okay? And then from there, just continue doing your part, ask questions as a group, and let that group respond to you. Do not turn it into a whole class discussion. Okay? Go by group. Select different students in the group. Okay? Let them discuss. But obviously, you have to lecture before. and then after, do some questioning, formative questioning to see the learning the content and so on. Okay, but this is my presentation, very simple presentation. My paper is more lengthy, but it's more broken down. This is just a general overview of my paper, why I support um, direct instruction, with relating with what we learn in class, which is memory and encoding and gestures and so on, and um, everything involving or encompassing what we learn in class. So again, whatever we learn in class encompasses the paper, okay, and vice versa. The whole paper encompasses what we learn in class, okay. But that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.